Warm welcome, everyone, to this webinar of Emmanuel Udofia about digitalization and big leadership challenge in that area. We're very, very excited, in particular, as Emmanuel is not just a former colleague of ours, another alumnus, as we all are, but also he's a book author. And I know that many people in the alumni network actually aspire to, at some point in time, really frame their thinking and structure their thoughts so that other people can benefit from it. So we're very, very keen to listen to Emmanuel and learn from Emmanuel. Emmanuel, warm welcome. Thanks for doing the webinar for us, and over to you.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever the world you are coming from. I want to say thank you to the team for giving me this opportunity to speak. It's really a privilege. The name again is Emmanuel Udofia, digital transmission consultant, a bestseller, author of the book, The Digital Leader. That's what will help us guide us as we walk through this talk on leadership and digital transformation. That's what I want to talk about. I hope we will stay within the time. How we run this, we'll go through a basic introduction and the objectives, then some story around what digital transformation is all about, why it failed, and we look at how to mitigate the challenges that come with it, such that once we leave here, we should be able to manage your digital solutions better. Then, of course, I should be able to take questions. But under this talk, I'm trying to focus on a part called leadership, because people tend to feel or look at that particular area. So what's the objective? Basically, the objective is, like I said, we'll look at what the challenges of digital solutions, then the success factors, and share what strong leadership within the framework of digital solutions is all about. Then that will help us to be able to drive this in a better route. Okay. I want to start with this. I'm looking at the limitless possibility of technology. I won't be impressed with technology until I can download a beer. That might sound funny or reasonable, but from experience and from history, that's how innovators think. And if you want to be a digital leader, you must come up with some crazy idea. And that's what digital transformation is all about. Mindset change. Without mindset, digital transformation cannot work. It takes us to what Henry Ford said. Whatever you think, if you think it's possible, fine. If you think it's not possible, fine. But I want to be in that good book where we make the impossible possible. And I can say maybe in the next couple of years, we should be able to download beer from our smartphone. I want to believe that. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just to set the tone to what we are supposed to talk about. I'm looking at what digital leaders, are they dispensable or indispensable? From looking at the book, which is what I'm taking a lot of this talk, The Digital Leader, over 70% of why digital transformation solution fail is because of people, meaning you and I. We are the problems why they don't work. In most cases, it's being treated as a tech solution, which shouldn't be. People don't have that business foresight. People still look at it as tech. Digital solution is not a tech solution. And coming up, of course, with the appropriate leadership model which is why we have that strong, I must emphasize that point, strong need for digital leaders in the current dispensation. How do we look at where we are today? Current trends in digital transformation. As we speak, there are a lot of massive investment in smart devices. There's difference between the smart devices and the entire suite of the implementation, which I will share as I progress. Generative artificial intelligence. Yes, that's where we are. We are gradually moving from the other part of AI, which looks at basically how you use tools, data, to be able to create models. The generative artificial intelligence come up with new content. We all know about that. Digital twin, remote operations capability, and of course, energy transition. Without digital transmission, we can't translate. It's very, very evident. The game changer in the era of is energy transition. It's digital transformation. And we need to do that consciously, deliberately, and intentionally. So what's digital transformation? What's the concept all about? What's the picture all about? When you talk about digital transformation, it comes in trenches. The very first step is what we call digitization. What does that mean? It simply means leaning your business process, taking out the waste. Because the truth is that technology amplifies the baseline. Then we go into the next realm, which is digitalization. What that simply means is that we automate this process. A lot of organizations stop at that. Those two elements we talked about depends a lot on the smart devices. But for you to get the full benefit of digital transformation, you need to go to the next level, which is the end-to-end solution of digital transformation. What does that mean in a simple form? It means the tool or the smart device, the people or the domain experts, the business process, and in some instance, the facility must be in sync. When you get to that level, then you get the full benefit. Like I try to explain, this digital transformation could be separated into two parts. One is called the digital capability and the leadership capability. I call the digital capability the what. That is, what are you sticking into your business? What are you sticking into your business ecosystem? Which we can call the deployment. In most cases, they are the smart devices. And in most cases, I call it the science. The science. Then the other part, which is the leadership capability. How do you stick these solutions? How do you stick these devices, which is the adoption? And under the adoption, I call it the art, A-R-T, the art, where you have the change management. The game changer in all this scenario is the change management. From studies, which you could see from the book, over 70% of why it succeed or fail lies under the leadership capability, and which is what brings about why we have the book, The Digital Leader, which I would strongly recommend everybody on this platform should get. Because if you need to effectively embed your solution, you need to have these strategies, which have been clearly stated in the book, and that's the way to go. Now, what's the typical journey of digital transformation? We normally start with an assessment. Look at the assessment, it gives you the opportunity. Then from the opportunity, you should be able to craft what I call the conceptual and the detailed design, which gives you an idea what you are about to solve. Then you go into the realm of deployment, then benefit and sustainability. The deployment, like I mentioned, I've earlier mentioned deployment. Then we go into the realm of the adoption, which is where the real meat is. As you could see under the slide, I stated that the change management starts before you start the implementation, before even you start the assessment, because you need to engage people, which is what I'm going to really talk about. Like I said, I'm trying to focus more on the people, on leadership. But at the end of this talk, I should be able to take questions from any area, because I only try to deal with one topic in the book in question. So as we'll talk about, for you to be under the realm of digital capability, you need to clearly craft the objective. The objective simply answers some questions. Why are you deploying technology? You are not doing it because of technology. You are doing it because you want to improve your business process. Whenever you deploy technology, there are three components you get. It brings efficiency in your system, quick decision making, and reduce risk exposure. And when you can connect those three, it results in profitability for the business. So for you to be able to do that, once you've been able to come up with the objective, you come up with a clear strategy on how to meet that. Of course, you need clear governance, customer engagement. At the point of scaling up the value, that is where you really get the real value of the implementation. Because the truth is this: in the realm of technology implementation, you try to look at what I call the quick wins or the low-hanging fruit, because of the inherent pushback or challenges you are going to get. When you scale up the value, that's when you can actually get the full value, because at the point it's like a proof of concept that you start with. Then you go into the point of trying to really get the extended value of the solution. So what are the common challenges? The common challenges, like I mentioned, one is engagement. I will call it poor engagement. Poor engagement in the sense that a lot of organizations just bring the technology because that's what the vendors tell them, stick it on, and they are unable to let the team know what is going to happen. There are three levels of engagement, which if you read the book, you will see. One of it is, how does the technology in question going to impact on the individual? The second level was the impact at the functional level. Then the third level was the impact at the corporate level. For the corporate level, before they start the implementation, that is pretty clear. But as you come to the functional level and individual level, it becomes a different ballgame. So that is why it's very important. This is done deliberately and consciously. Once you can engage at that three levels, it will help to manage misconceptions. Because when I carry out training, one of the common questions I do have, people normally ask me, Are they going to lose their job with technology? The answer I always give is a simple yes and a no. Yes, in the sense that if you don't adapt or upskill to meet up with the realities of the present day, you will definitely be out of business. It's as simple as that. So people need to be conscious. In fact, I'm looking at the next, well, I say work that will look at the impact on the workforce, because that's one key area. A lot of jobs, particularly if you are carrying out any repetitive tasks, technology is going to take it over, because technology will do it better than you and I. Absolutely. So we need to be deliberate. The next part why this challenge, lack of experience. Most business schools don't teach you this. Like I said, I'm happy I had the privilege Shell showed me the way. It was through Shell that I was able to pick up most of this knowledge. So the lack of experience, people don't really know. And that's why even the project framework, people use the conventional project framework. I'm going to share some bullet points on a typical framework which I have used in some projects that worked perfectly, seamlessly. But like I said, digital transformation is a continuous business improvement process. So the other one is succession plan. You will see on the next slide what I call the chief digital officer, which some might call the business opportunity manager. They give it all kinds of names in different organizations. But basically, that is the person responsible, like the engine in the business, to be able to drive the solution. And that takes us to what I call the digital leadership, because that's get into that wave where you have somebody who has that leadership thought, that leadership mindset, who feel the pain of the business to be able to drive this solution. Yeah, this is what I generated, what I will call a project model for digital solutions. Typically, I'll keep it very simple. Ready later, I believe I should be able to take up some questions. It starts with what I call the D, decision executive. Decision executive. That's the person at the highest level. Because for digital transformation to really survive, people at the highest level, leaders at the highest level must be on board. They must take ownership. They should be ready to open the door. In fact, after the engagement, if after the assessment, when we gauge, we normally ask to have a very short meeting with these very senior leaders. If they are not on board, we always advise, don't do it. Because without the CEOs, the MDs, or the highest people in the organization, if they are not involved, it's going to fail. That goes into the area of the leadership. That goes into the area of the leadership. So as you must have seen or observed in the previous slide, all the factors that impacted why they failed, it was all about people. So in this case, what we use at the next level was the steering committee, which are very senior leaders from the respective functions that will support the implementation of the solution. Then just before that, we have the chief digital officer. I deliberately put that on red because the chief digital officer is taking on the process to manage it on behalf of the DE. The DE should sign the charter, own the project, but the chief digital officer should drive it on a day-to-day basis. I will share some qualities or expectations of who should be the chief digital officer. That's not a role for anybody, because such a person is very critical to the success of the implementation. If the person there is not a nice fit, it's going to fail. See, I'm not saying might. There are certain points that if it's just not there, I will advise don't even try it. That's why I said try and get the book. I put more detail there. Then just before that, you have the project managers. These are people, in most cases, the IT folks, because the reality is that the IT is the backbone of digital transformation. But I wouldn't recommend that they should be in the driving seat because they are seasonal. They come in, spend 3 months, 6 months, and they're out. But the chief digital officer live with the project, stays with the project. It is his or her baby. Then, of course, just under that, you have the project team, which support the project manager. Then you drive this periodically to ensure that you get into the realm of the objective. What should be the typical qualities of the chief digital officer? This person should be a team player. The person must come from the business. The person must come from the business because such a person should feel the pain of why you are implementing technology. This person, when the solution comes, he or she should be able to feel it. He knows it. So such a person must come from, I don't know how to overemphasize that. Those are some of the areas that I feel a lot of organizations need to address, which come into the area of the leadership. Of course, the person should be able to have some level of domain expertise in the expected business process to be deployed or adopted. And of course, some digital survey. Then this person should be able to communicate the top and the bottom. The top, I'm talking about the DE, and those are the coal face. So you could see if such a person has most of these elements. I'm not saying this is exhaustive. This is not exhaustive, but it gives us a clear direction on what to do and who to look out for when we are trying to choose such a person. And very important, it's good there should be a succession plan because such a person is very critical. If you get, because certainly people will move. If you don't have a succession plan, it simply means that if the person have to move for whatsoever reason, you go back to point of zero. I might not be able to talk about a lot of the case studies here, but in the book, we have a lot of case studies. And in the case studies, we looked at matured assets, we look at a marginal field. That was deliberate for marginal field because a lot of marginal field believe that digital transmission in the oil and gas belongs to is an exclusive of Shell, Mobil, Saudi Aramco. That is not for them. But what I always tell them that once you honor the principles, it will work for you. We equally look at a desert environment, the brown field, and for the green field, green asset, that's a question mark. Why I decided to put that on a question mark is that that is the best asset to actually implement it when you start from the scratch, rather than trying to retrofit, because it's very expensive and it's not that efficient to start retrofitting assets. So if you want to start developing an asset, it's very important you start the conversation like yesterday. Because for today, every asset, you just need to drive on digital solutions. For instance, any well today must have a downhole gauge. It's a given. It's just a given. So those are the kind of solutions that you start when you have a green asset. So it's very important for organizations to be deliberate, intentional in delivering D2 solutions. I call this adoption playbook. What do I refer to this is this very, very common and typical, because when you want to deploy technology, the first response you get is that we are fine. We are doing great. It's not for us. So that's why I try to play this out. If you go into the book, you see this. I took this out from the book. We talked about the denial, resistance. It doesn't apply to us. We are doing fine. But after a very robust engagement, they might give you the opportunity for trial, and you have just one opportunity. You don't miss it. So what do you do? When you have done the assessment and you have looked at the array of opportunities, you deploy what I call the quick wins, the low-hanging fruit, to demonstrate value, because you want to win confidence. Because a lot of people have very hostile attitude, very pushback. I mean, people are not, by nature, we resist change. By nature, we work in silos. So anything, because if you truly deploy technology, it will disrupt your existing business ecosystem, and people don't like that naturally. So you need to be able to convince them, let them know that you are coming to help them do their job better. You are coming to add value to what they are doing before they can give you the opportunity to execute this trial. So once you can do that, and that's why consultants like us are fine, because we know how to get those workaround and win that confidence. And once you can do that, it will take you to the next realm, acceptance. This is at this level that you start upscaling, bringing in what I'll call add-ons and the sustainability. Because as we speak today, our pumps should not trip on us. Our compressor should not trip on us, because before those systems trip, they've been sending us some warning signs. But a lot of us, it's either we don't know or we don't listen. So these days, when I hear that a pump trip or a plant trip, no, it shouldn't be. If you truly deploy technology and implement it, adopt it as it should be. So from all the case studies we looked at, like I shared earlier on, you could see that robust stakeholders engagement should be very, very clear. You need very experienced people. Where they cannot, they can go to some trainings. Engage in some projects and pick up those skills and come up with a relevant strategy. Digital transformation is not a one-size-fits-all. It's not plug and play. It's not it's a tailor-made solution for any particular asset. So the way it's done on asset A will be different from the way it's done from asset B, because there are a lot of factors, even cultural factors, affect it. Then, of course, the succession part should be very, very clear. Then to help this, you have an impactful digital leader, which will help you in trying to adopt that solution. So some key takeaways. D2 leaders are indispensable for any business survival today, as I speak. I can say that authoritatively. If you do it otherwise, you'll be left behind. You're going to lose your market share. And in some instance, you might not even survive. Your business might not survive. And how do you do this? A very robust, orchestrated change management process. It will drive it. Strong leadership drives innovation. And technology or digital transmission is more of digital leaders than technology. So I will say thank you, and I'm ready to take some questions. And this is the book. You can get a copy from any of these outlets, or you could just contact me. My numbers, personal numbers and email are there. So thank you very much. I hope I stay within the time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your presentation, Emmanuel. And let's
Yeah.
open up for a little bit of a dialogue. Yeah, let me kick off with a first question, maybe. So when it comes to digitalization and leadership, maybe can you refer to one example of a shell implementation that you still remember that you felt was a positive example on how digitalization should be implemented really so it does and achieves the results you want to have. So is there something that you believe you've seen in Shell that we can all refer to that you would like to point us out?
Yeah, it's not just to see. I don't know whether Franz Vandenberg is here. Um, I was a focal point for the Bunga.
Mhm.
I implemented the CW in Bunga. Like you know, Bunga is a crown jewel of Shell.
It is,
Yeah.
sure.
So if we, when you check the book, you will see some case studies from Bunga,
Mhm.
which were something I did personally. It's
When
not.
was that? In which
It was, I think,
time was that?
2013, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, if it was, I published it on OTC, even in JPT, you will see it. So it's a
Mm.
well documented success story that we had. Yeah.
Mm. And what was the goal and what did you achieve? So maybe you just
Yeah,
can a little bit more.
the goal from on top of my head, we are supposed to minimize manual data entry, to minimize travels to the field because it was a deep water, and one of the biggest costs there was travels.
Mm.
Then the other ones was to have a real-time production optimization. So we deploy a tool. This is Shell. We deploy Production Universe, which was a tool that I manage as well.
Mm.
And it changed. It changed because we were able to even do production allocation in real time.
Mm.
Real time. Yeah, we technology there was very robust, very. Like I said,
Mm.
Shell is a good company. Yeah, Shell is a
Mm.
good company, and that's what, like I said, gave me that exposure.
And I'm sure it also has its share of challenging IT projects. But let's open up also to indeed others and any experiences people have had after Shell. So it's nice to hear, any implementations that others have done and how they experienced the leadership challenge there. I mean, um, Jan, I wonder if you may want to share a little bit from your own experience. I know that you've done quite a bit of work in implementing, at least in particular, one big system in the past in Oman, for example, you told me at some stage, and maybe also in some other locations you want to share. Any dilemmas that you can recognize from Emmanuel's presentation?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you, Emmanuel. Good presentation, and I recognize a lot of the points you said there. Um, uh, just a little plug for while we're at it is that we're trying. Debbie Hesse is also on the line here, and a number of us. I've noticed Pascal as well. We're trying to think about what are the subjects where we should be helping in the PECTON context around digitalization. And our thoughts are that we should be supporting a lot of the business processes, which could be around the energy transition, it could be around cost reduction, it could be around safety improvement, or whatever. And digital should be in support of that, and therefore we should be working together with them. But I think I would say overall, to answer Dagmar's question, everything around data is where there's a lot of focus right now, and helping the companies to come up with a really strong data plan, data strategy, to enable them to use the data afterwards to do some fancy things, is really where I think we're going to be providing a lot of help coming up, and that's certainly where we want to be playing in. Just one. I only have one question actually for Manuel. I think it was on your second slide or so around the digital trends, the type of solutions that you say are very topical right now on the market. You talked about smart devices, generative AI, digital twin, remote operations, and the last one you talked about was energy transition digital solution. I was quite interested to know what you meant about that last one, Emmanuel. What did you have in mind for that?
The world is trying to be, will I say greener or green? We are moving from the fossil fuel. So in that space, technology will do a lot of work. And like I said, anytime you bring in technology, the technology will always do what they were designed to do. We need to orchestrate that process to be sure that it's fully embedded, and that is where a lot of the challenges are. So that is my thoughts, and that's why gradually we start focusing on those areas to see what we could do to be able to get that done.
Thank you. Okay.
Deng has his hand up.
Hi, good afternoon, Emmanuel. Thanks for the great talk around your book. One thing I picked up, I actually have two questions. You said that it's important to have a chief digital officer. And I think we know that for some time now, organizations have chief information officers. So the first question is, what is the difference between these two roles? And second, not all businesses will be big enough to afford a full-time chief digital officer. In those cases, which officer is best placed to take on this role? Is it the CFO? Is it the COO, and so forth? I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Emmanuel.
Okay. First, the first question, what are chief digital officer, business opportunity manager, chief information officer? If you check the book, I listed a lot of them, so many of them. Those are just nomenclatures. The most important thing, you are looking for somebody that fits into those qualities I talked about. Of course, in most cases, you don't get somebody dedicated. It's just like a role. Somebody might be a production technologist, but that person should be able to be one of the person that fits into the expected implemented business process. Because like I mentioned, one of the things, the person should have some domain expertise, but very important, such a person should come from the business. If it's not from the business, it's a no-no. Because coming from the business means that you feel the pain. You know the challenges of the asset. So you should be able to drive it and take ownership. In fact, in some assets, to support the chief digital officer or business opportunity manager or chief information officer, call it whatever name you want to call it, they have OR&A, operations readiness and assurance, which is a team supporting. But at the end of the day, because this project is a project that will start and doesn't have an end date, the project team will hand it over. In principle, they are handed over to the DE, but the DE is a very busy person at the highest level. So that DE hands it over to the chief digital officer, who will be involved in the day-to-day running of the operations. Because in the first 6 months or thereabout, you should be able to carry out a PIA, post-implementation review, to know what are we doing? Are we doing it right? What are those gray areas we need to resolve? What I'm talking about is things that I've done. I'm doing it now for smaller assets, but the challenge, there's this mindset that it is for the IOCs, it's for the big companies. But I've been able to do to one or two marginal operators here, producing about 5,000 barrels. I know Bunga used to produce about over 200,000 barrels per day. So you could see those difference. But like I said, once you could honor the principles, it work. I don't know what I've answered your question, John.
Yeah, yes, you did. And then you effectively answered the second question as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Since there are no other questions yet, and I invite you to come in, ask your questions, raise your hand. I also wanted to ask a curious question about writing a book, Emmanuel, because is that the first book you've written, or did you write other books? And how does that work for you? How did you come up with the concept, the idea, and how did you operationalize it? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you, Dagmar. That's a very good question. Very, very good question. I still give thanks to, maybe you people might know him, Franz Vandenberg. About during the days of Shell, one evening he called me up. He literally pushed me to submit a paper for Intelligent Energy Conference. I reluctantly, because I didn't know what to do, but he really helped me. People always have that inertia. But after that, I developed the flair for writing. And I've published a lot of work, technical papers at ATCE, at OTC, a lot of platforms. So after some time, I felt I need to put these things together. That's why, please just get a copy of the book. Most of the references are most of the work that I've done. So, like I said, if you don't, looking at the faces here, we've actually done a lot. Just like what Franz told me. If you don't document it, you've not done it. Because at times you might be struggling. But whenever I pick any of those materials, even this book to read, it still reminds me of a lot of things. So I always encourage my colleagues. I think it's important we document what we've done, because if you don't document it, let's assume somebody go pick that book, the person is trying to get an experience of over 20 years that I just put in there, and it will help for any implementation. Mr. Frank Rotin just talked about energy transition. It depends on technology. It depends on technology. So what have we done to be able to leverage on? So, but writing a book it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline. You need to reference a lot of materials. You need to, it takes a lot. It will just discipline you. It will just discipline you. So for me, it's a very good experience. As I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of coming up with the next book, which now, like I said, because I deliver courses, people might ask me, are they going to lose their job? I tell people that the medical doctors of today will not be the same as medical doctors of 10, 15 years from now. The engineers of today will not be the same. So you need to be prepared. And when we start having this kind of conversation, people will be ready. What I normally call it, there will be job realignment, whether we like it or not. Are people ready? Already we are talking about driverless cars. After some time, we might not even have drivers. So, but we need to be intentional about it. If you don't do it, then it becomes a challenge. So for me, writing a book it makes me happy. It makes me happy.
So how long did it actually take you,
It
Emmanuel?
took me
What's the idea?
about 3 years. Yes, it took me about 3 years.
Did you
Because
do that all by yourself, or do you have a person looking at what you've written? Or how does that work practically?
once I finished the writing, I contacted the publishers and gave it to them. They did the editing. The editing is another big work. It's a very big work, because you need to go back and forth. They will do it and send it back to you. You will look at it. Does it, because when you pick the book, you are picking me. Yeah. So it has to speak you. Does it have your voice? Yeah. So it's a back and forth, but they really help, because from what I've seen, speaking English is different from editing a book. There are professionals whose work, just like we have production engineers, we have reservoir engineers, there are people, their work is editing books, and they are very professional about it. Though at the end, the final editor will be yourself, because the book must be a voice. It must be a voice. And that took a lot of time. A lot
Yeah,
of time, I tell you.
can imagine. Can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
So, just checking if there's any other questions, Emmanuel, maybe to round it off with, the 2 or so key recommendations that you would have to anyone who is in the midst of a big transformative challenge in that front regarding digitalization. So what are some of the recommendations you have for leadership to keep front of mind?
One, the leaders at the top must be on board.
Yeah.
If you go into any organization and they are not a firm believer in technology, don't do it. It won't work. Like I talked about the D. If the D is not a believer in technology, advise them not to do it, because it won't work. I know you might say the D is not the person doing the job. Yes, but the body language of the D speaks a lot. And the D is supposed to sign the charter of the project. And that should be seen, felt by the team. The next part will be what I call ownership. That's where you need a very robust chief digital officer or chief information officer, as the case may be, who is ready to drive it. And this person should have a flair for tech. Should be able to feel the pain. And if you have those two, yes, so there are a lot of other challenges, but you go a long way in getting it right. That's yeah.
Perfect summary.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Emmanuel. It was such a pleasure to hear from you, and hopefully other people also feel encouraged that have not spoken yet to come up with a webinar. We are always very interested in hearing from you and your projects post-shell. So thank you so much, Emmanuel, for sharing that with us. And everyone, wish you a very good rest of your day. Looking forward to the
Thank you.
next time. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Yeah, bye.